It has been more than 2 years since the divorce between Jeannie Mai and Jeezy shattered the polished front they once presented to the world, yet the silence between them has been louder than any public statement either could have made. Jeannie, whose online presence once felt like a constant warm glow across YouTube, abruptly vanished into the background as legal battles unfolded and the reality of her personal life took a painful turn. For years, viewers were used to her bright energy, her voice, and her willingness to share every corner of her journey. But the divorce created a kind of quiet that swallowed her platform whole. So when she suddenly returned with a new video, stepping back into a space she'd abandoned, something about her tone immediately felt different. There was no glamour in her voice, no familiar optimism, just a deep heaviness that pressed through the screen as she spoke about how the right path doesn't always feel good even when it feels true. She described herself as being in a stage of becoming, a phase that wasn't flashy or exciting, but subtle, uncomfortable, and quietly courageous, as if she had walked through something dark to get here and was still trying to process the pieces she carried with her. Then she revealed that she had gone through experiences she wouldn't wish on anyone, the kind of emotional pain that shakes your faith and makes you question everything you thought you understood about your life. A chapter of her world had ended, a chapter she once shared openly with her audience, and the ending of that chapter flipped into an awakening she never expected. Her words painted a picture of a woman grappling with aftermath, a woman who realized she had abandoned herself for far too long, who had traded her peace for the sake of trying to repair things that were already broken beyond saving. When everything around her collapsed, she was stripped of the distractions she had relied on, and the only person left standing in front of her was herself, someone she had ignored, someone she barely recognized, someone she now needed to relearn. In her telling, she found solace in her daughter, in motherhood, in the small quiet moments that reminded her of who she truly was beneath the chaos. She explained that she had spent years fixing, smoothing, and carrying relationships on her shoulders, trying to make them look whole even when they were falling apart in her hands. That revelation hit her hard, forcing her to confront the reality that she had been pouring energy into everything except her own well-being. It was a raw self-assessment, one that many viewers interpreted as a reflection on her marriage to Jeezy, but just beneath the vulnerability was something else entirely, a familiar narrative woven so softly that only those who have heard it many times recognize the pattern. As she continued, she acknowledged that she discovered parts of herself she didn't know existed, including a temper she claimed she never noticed until she was with Jeezy. She traced that temper through generations of her family, naming it as something ancestral, inherited, ingrained. Yet she insisted she didn't recognize it in her first marriage to Freddie Harteyes, even though she once described him as the best man she knew. For years she had praised him publicly, repeating how loyal, compassionate, funny, and honest he was, insisting there was never any betrayal or dishonesty between them. And while she painted him as a nearly flawless partner, the relationship still ended. The truth, buried in the quiet spaces between her statements, was that he wanted children and she did not, a division that cut deeper than anything else. After their divorce, he moved on, built a family, and openly expressed his resentment toward how things unfolded. But Jeannie continued to reconstruct the narrative in a way that made her feel like the wounded one, the misunderstood one, the victim of circumstances rather than the architect of the decisions that shaped her life. This pattern resurfaced again when she reflected on Jeezy, positioning herself as someone awakened through pain, someone who discovered her flaws during the relationship, someone who had tried to hold things together until everything fell apart. But what stood out to many observers was the way she framed the journey. It was a familiar story told by many women in their late 30s and 40s when relationships collapse, a narrative centered on choosing oneself, rediscovering oneself, healing oneself, and emerging stronger, yet somehow skipping over the accountability that might provide necessary clarity. She admitted she had been choosing herself all along, even when she believed she was compromising, and that revelation struck a nerve with those who recognized how personal responsibility often becomes blurred in emotional storytelling. Observers pointed out that Jeannie had not been abandoned. Jeezy filed for divorce. She was the one being left, not the one leaving, and this was the second time a marriage ended with her being the one standing alone. In both situations, she had chosen herself above the needs and expectations of her partners, and when those men chose themselves in return, she crumbled beneath the weight of a decision she had helped create. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't betrayal. It was the natural result of two people wanting different things and one person assuming her desires would always be prioritized. The painful truth lurking beneath every emotional reflection was that relationships require sacrifice, not just in moments of convenience but in long-term commitment. And when someone continually chooses themselves first, the partner eventually makes a choice of their own. Jeannie's latest reflections followed the same cycle many have observed among high-value women who moved through life with abundant opportunities and endless affirmation. When youth and beauty open every door, accountability often becomes optional. But as time moves forward, those same doors begin to narrow, and the partners once willing to tolerate attitude, inflexibility, or emotional volatility become far less patient. Men with options exercise them. Men with stability and resources expect cooperation. And when Jeannie found herself facing the consequences of her choices, she wrapped them in emotional language that made her feel brave rather than responsible. Her story was told with a softness that invited sympathy, but beneath its surface was a harder lesson, one that many women ignore until it's too late. Choosing yourself is not an issue. Failing to choose your partner in a partnership is. Failing to adjust when the situation demands it is. Failing to honor the expectations of someone who has proven their commitment is. And eventually, the market decides where you fit. Not the romantic market, not the social market, but the market of human relationships, where value is based on consistency, peace, cooperation, and emotional maturity. When someone can offer those things, they remain partnered. When they can't, they find themselves searching for meaning in the aftermath. In the end, Jeannie's story is not just about pain or awakening. It is a reflection of patterns, decisions, and missed moments of accountability disguised as personal growth. The silence she broke with her new video offered a window not only into her struggles but into the consequences she now faces. Consequences shaped by choices she made long before the divorce papers were filed.